Hello, our friends, Evolutionary Energy Arts family.
Hello there. Welcome back, everybody.
I'm trying to get this pretty girl to sit a little closer to me, but I think she's afraid.
He says all the right things.
You could trust me.
Oh, boy. Okay.
Hey, this isn't no politician.
Well, that's a good thing, then. We can move forward.
Yes, let us move forward as we look at this. And before we get going, I just want to encourage everybody, if you haven't subscribed yet to both channels, Evolutionary Energy Arts and also EEARTS, you know, we're going to be going, I think it's time, because we have so many new people, to really go a little bit deeper into some of the mysteries and the side of the mysteries and how we got there. We're always trying to do that. As you can see on EEARTS, we're talking about the ancient and ongoing wars of the gods. You know, absolutely, our history is hidden. And there's so much right in our faces if we will just open our eyes and look and then string things together. We got to start putting things together if we want to get a clear picture of what's happening. Over here we were talking about Buzz Aldrin, you know, and his little statement. You know, was he making the statement truly that we never were to the moon, that it was all just a production? You know, it's so funny. There's always going to be these elements and emissaries of the controllers that come out and they use the same terminologies all the time. They'll say something like, well, he didn't admit that, and you're going to lose all credibility. If you start bringing up things about lose all credibility, you yourself don't have any credibility, because, again, it's part of that big disinfo plan. There's a big shift underway, though, guys. There's a massive shift underway. We are actually, it might be hard to sense it, but our consciousness, our will, and using our vocal cords, we're changing their program. We're changing their timelines. We are having an effect. We are. And so every word that you've spoken, that you've taken the time to try to share with somebody else what's going on, it's well worth it.
It's absolutely worth it. Keep going, because the truth that we stand in now is just going to get more and more and more solidified over time. So we just keep going where we're going.
Absolutely. And where we're going is in many ways where we've been. This is one of those, you know, crazy truths. As you look at this is Pakistan. Pakistan is suffering from massive floods right now. And modern day Pakistan and India, at one time they were one. And it's been 75 years now that they were partitioned into two countries, one predominantly Muslim and the other predominantly Hindu. But this land holds so many mysteries. And when I see this, I think they're washing more mysteries away is what they're doing. Unfortunately, hundreds of people have lost their lives in these floods, and many more will because of all the crop loss down the road. It makes you think about how easily a civilization can get washed away, like what we've seen with Atlantis.
Oh, definitely. You know, you just look at this and look at the size of that building and how quickly it can make itself just simply disappear into the earth. Could you imagine in 100 years from now, is anybody going to know that there was even a building there?
No, they won't, really, probably. Over 935 people killed, more than 33 million. 33. There's that number. You know, there's something going on here behind the scenes. Affected, worst natural disaster in decades, but this is the time we're in, right? 3 ancient burials hint at multiple migrations of ancient humans throughout Southeast Asia. And so this is talking about the Timor area. And, you know, Southeast Asia is fascinating. And, you know, sometimes maybe I'm a little negligent in thinking that people know some things that perhaps they don't know. But this whole area, again, when we go back to our legends, we have legends of Atlantis. We also have legends of Lemuria and Mu. And they are very, very different civilizations. All of them are very, very different. We're going to go more into Atlantis, and especially with what Cindy has received recently. But what you have to understand is this Earth at one time was a very different place. And I'm thinking of Tolkien. I'm thinking of the interaction between humans, halflings, elves, dwarves, and things like orcs and all the like. This is what the world really was like in the past. And this is what the world is really going to be like in the future as well. There were all sorts of humanoid beings on this planet. Now, they've covered up the evidence of these humanoid beings by distortion. They change what the reality was. And they can do it because, hey, they are the scientists. They are part of the system. And they know they need to cover these things up. There's a reason why the monetary system is as it is. It's all about controlling the narrative. So these excavations that reveal different fragments and bones and a human skull that was more than 12,000 years old, so that is going back to Younger Dryas disaster period again, but also cranial fragments dating to 17,000 years old. The Younger Dryas event was a horrible event. A horrible, horrible event. It was devastating. It wiped out the majority of life on this planet. These events happen, unfortunately, at regular intervals on this planet. And then we have the controllers that are also using natural events to be an excuse for periodic readjustments of the population and the technology on the planet.
I think that's a really, really good word, readjustments, because they need basically to steer humanity in a way that's most advantageous for them to stay in control and make sure that they can continue to indoctrinate people in their schools, indoctrinate people and get them to just basically learn only what they need them to know so they can run their facilities, so they can live in the mansions, have the nice cars, get the AI technology working for them so that they can have a nice cushiony seat.
Yeah, so it just makes me want to bring this up as you see, if you guys ever played Dungeons and Dragons, I did as a kid. I did. I think I was big into Dungeons and Dragons freshman year of high school, maybe junior high. Dwarves, halfling, elves, humans, gnomes, half-orcs, orcs, half-elves, giants, all these different types of beings. You know what? They're all humanoid. And then when we look at the legends, in many cases, you can take two different species and get an offspring. Now, when the Bible talks about Genesis 6, and it doesn't go into much detail, we understand the book of Enoch goes into more detail, but it's distorted in the sense that it's trying to tell you these non-physical angelic beings, because angelic beings, true angelic beings, are not the 3D flesh. So this is part of the distortion. Yet many of these beings, when they existed on Earth, and many of them do right now, but they're just in 4D. So they're at one density, just a little bit off from where we are, and to each other at that density, they're as solid as can be. And given 20 years to us, they'll be as solid as can be yet again.
Keep in mind, the light spectrum in which we can see now is just a tiny sliver of the light spectrum that is here on the planet to be seen. So our information is filtered in such an extreme way that only right now can we bring up our perception and see these beings and see them through our pineal glands and feel them through our energy bodies. Many of us are beginning to feel those energies now and know that there's something more there. But there will be a time soon when we'll be able to see them much more clearly.
Yeah, if you look at this tiny little band right here, out of all that there is as far as these different frequencies, and we know these things are real, cosmic rays, gamma rays, x-rays, they're real, microwaves, radio, broadband. It's not like this stuff is just conjecture, and it really is real. However, we can't see it. We can't see visibly the cosmic rays, the gamma rays. We can't visibly see the microwaves or the radio. Yet, when we look at the visible light spectrum, and here you see, this is our range. It's very small. As you see, just a little bit before 400 nanometers, and just a little bit after 700 nanometers. It's very small. We are not perceiving all that there is. That's the bottom line. So when we look at these bodies that they found, some of these were very, very small. This female body, 12,000 years old, was very, very small. There were many different beings living together. Now, they want to tell you that when we look at some, what we would call proto-human, some of humanity's, according to the science, ancestors like Homo habilis, Homo erectus, they didn't look like this. This is what they're telling us they look like, but they were not like this. Really what you want to, how you want to picture them is more along these lines. They were not dumb, unintelligent beings. And again, brain size does not have a direct correlation with intelligence. And Neanderthals and Denisovans, both of whom are not here in the 3D anymore, although they do live on in some of our DNA, they had bigger brains than we do. They were actually more muscular, stronger than we are. It's freaky, really, when you think about how strong a chimpanzee, and a chimpanzee is typically smaller than the average male, but way stronger. Way stronger. I mean, a chimp could literally rip your arms off and beat you over the heads with him. Why? Again, because we have a lot of our DNA, the vast majority of our DNA does not come from here. That's the bottom line. And each planet has its own gravitational forces in play, which, give us our relative strengths and all. These beings were not as portrayed. This is your Charles Darwin, who, again, 33rd degree Mason, he gave us Darwinian evolution. Now, there are those that then throw out evolution as a whole. They want you to do that. They get you coming, they get you going. If you say there is no evolution, then you don't understand that's how the universe works. There is evolution. Doesn't mean it's Darwinian evolution. Aha! Again, there was creation. It doesn't mean it was in a literal 6 days. Doesn't mean the earth is 6,000 years old. Sure, there was a major flood about 5,000 to 6,000 years ago. There was an even bigger disaster 12,000-ish years ago. These disasters come in cycles. Again, it's all distorted. It's distorted on purpose. These beings, Homo habilis, Homo erectus, and many of the others that came after, were very intelligent beings. And they were way more in tune with the earth, nature, and living in a symbiotic way than we are. They were night and day compared to us. And in many ways, they were far more advanced than us.
Mm-hmm. Well, they had a deep understanding of where real energy and real life force comes from. So they were very careful when they dealt with the sun and they dealt with the earth, because those two things are what makes up their form. That's so important. And what if we were taught that from a very young age, that this information here and that information there, this gives you your form. So you should treat it as such, the entire planet and the sun. I mean, they knew how to focus on energies. They knew how to manipulate plant medicine to help them if they ever got sick, for their longevity and their health. They knew everything. And because of that, they did not need any hierarchy. They did not need any help. And that's what made them a problem.
And Homo erectus, depending on where we find it, it's an interesting one too, because, they do vary anywhere from 4'9", typically in height, which is pretty small, to around 6 feet, 6'1". And there was two distinct branches of this one species that were in different parts of the world. One was in Africa, and one was over in China. And yet again, when we look to humanity, I mean, shoot, we got pygmies that are 3 feet something, and then we got some humans that get to be 8 feet tall. it's night and day. This is because we are able to share our genes with other humanoid species. So when we look back to these legends, they're more than legends. Again, in some ways, the myths are more real than the science, because the science is purposely about covering up. So when you see always, they try to depict these humanoid species as being more monkeyish, more ape-like than human. It's a distortion of the reality. And again, they're all about keeping their secrets, as we know. And this is Mr. Darwin over there on the left, 33rd degree Mason too. Joseph Smith, founder of the Mormon Church, 33rd degree Mason. The founder of the Jehovah Witnesses, Charles Taze Russell, 33rd degree Mason. Many presidents. I mean, this goes on and on and on. The secret societies keep it secret. Why do you think, again, the Skull and Bones Society has 322 on their logo? It's because it's referring to Genesis 3:22. And before we go further, I'll bring that up just because, again, I want to keep recapitulating that, there's this massive cover-up underway.
And it really is the biggest cover-up in the universe. Everything is out there in such a way that it leads us astray, and that's so deliberate. But their problem is we are growing very much when it comes to our soul and spirit and the ability to read energy. So we're seeing past this line of BS that they just put in front of us, and we're going to perceive the truth more and more, and that's something they cannot stop.
And so, here you see, behold, man has become like one of us, knowing good and evil. And now we might stretch out his hand, take also from the tree of life and eat and live forever. Why is that the logo of the Skull and Bones Society that produced both Bush presidents, produced Prescott Bush, who was a U.S. Senator from Connecticut, which was, Grandpappy Bush or Great-Grandpappy Bush, depending on which generation you're talking about, as well as many other notable politicians and people of power. Why? Because we can't have that knowledge. They don't want us having the knowledge. They don't want us understanding who and what we really are, because it catapults us past them. It catapults us away from them being able to control us. So don't let the humans wake up. And then you see a lot of weird things with the Vatican and the Pope. And so what's up with the Pope's giant symbol, right? You see this symbol. It's the Atacama giant. And then, of course, we have the cross, And, it has been said that Nibiru is the planet of the crossing. And there's your real reality. Who does the Pope serve? Well, he's letting you know by the symbol of the cross. Because, again, this cross is not a balanced cross. It's a cross that is unequal in its energies. Everything about the system in place is unequal in its energies. So, Wikipedia suggests this is a local Chilean deity, the Atacama giant. As Pope Francis visits Chile, this was from 4 months ago, his giant Atacama cross is causing quite a stir. Many people are curious about its meaning and origin, but nobody seems to know for sure. Some believe it's a local Chilean deity, while others think it might be something more sinister. The Atacama giant has long been a source of intrigue and speculation in Chile. Some see it as an ancient symbol of a local identity. Others believe it might be connected to something darker and more sinister. Regardless of its true meaning, this mysterious figure has become the subject of heated debates and intense scrutiny in recent years, making it one of the most talked about topics in the country. What do you think about the Atacama giant? Well, if we go, let me jump over here to Google Earth, you could see this is where it is. And we're zeroing in. This is Chile. Now, oh boy, I was just reiterating to Cindy, pack your bags, girl, we're going. It might not be for another 9-10 years, but we're going. And I really, and I'll share it with you guys, I really see myself ending this 3D experience somewhere over here, exploring the mysteries in Peru, in Bolivia, in Chile. This area is fascinating. I mean, just, it's so loaded, it's so fascinating. As we're zooming in, you can see this is a desert area, a high desert. Oh, look at that. What do we have here? Waiting for it to come. Wait, there he is. He's big. Look at that. There he is. That's the Atacama giant. Interesting. You got 4 beams coming out of the head this way. Is that 5 on this side, 5 on that side? Hands up in the air. He looks happy. He's smiling. I don't know if he's wearing a skirt or not. Very curious, but look at the size of that. Why would, again, somebody create something so big? This is the world's largest anthropomorphic geoglyph. But you know what? It's not the only one in the world. There's a lot of other ones, and there's a lot in this area, in this greater area, I should say. Again, when we're looking at this area, and we start going a little bit farther north, we run into the area that many of you are probably familiar with, Nazca in Peru, and the Nazca lines. You know, again, there's so much going on in this area, and this whole area too, over in the mountains. This is supposed to be an area that gives you entrance, and there's Nazca, by the way, over here with the Nazca lines. It gives you entrance into the inner earth. One of my good friends that I used to work with, he grew up in the area around Cusco. And the locals there knew that, you know, whatever you want to call them, a lot of the locals still refer to them basically as the gods. Others as, you know, there's aliens. They come and go all the time. You'll see the UFOs, and the UFOs will disappear into mountains. Literally. They'll be going, and then you're like, it's going to hit that mountain. Where'd it go? Well, that's the type of technology that they have. They can change density. They also obviously can make, you know, something appear to be very real that's not solid as well. Holographs, we all know, Project Bluebeam, and covering up different things, covering up different openings. You might see that there's like a whole mountain there, but there really isn't a whole mountain there. And there's a lot of places on Earth, too, that people have not truly explored, even in these times. So, you know, this is a fascinating glyph depicting a sky god. Aha. Why are they depicting these sky gods and these ancient giant beings that you can't make out when you're standing on the ground? They're too big to make out what they are when you're standing on the ground, but from the sky, then you could see. It's like they're waving to somebody. Hey guys, look, you know, be nice to us, bless us, you know, teach us something new.
You know, and I got a question too. I mean, did people actually make those things on the ground? It seems like there would have to be an awful lot of guidance when it comes to making that, because it's just so huge. I would imagine if you're just standing on the ground, I don't know if you would know it's there. So I'm sure there's some really interesting stories in the different tribes about how that was made. And then, Mike, when you were talking about the ships going straight into the mountain, you know, that reminded me when we were driving in the desert in Nevada, and the fighter jet came so low to the ground. And the creepiest thing about it was, first, it was silent. And then next, it's like it went right into the mountain. It pulled forward, and then it just vanished. So crazy stuff we've seen.
This was in Nevada, right next to Nellis. Mm-hmm. This was on 75. I want to say it was maybe 20 miles out before you get to the turn to go down into Pahrump. And all of a sudden, there's a fighter jet right next to us. And we were traveling 70-ish, 75, maybe a hair more, somewhere around there. Yeah. and it slowed down, so it was traveling the same speed as us.
Yeah.
Now, for one, I'm no expert on fighter jets. I mean, I could recognize basic ones, but it made no noise. It made no noise. And I was like to Cindy, because I was driving, I was like, get the phone, quick. Let's get a picture. And I'm rolling down the windows to see if we could hear anything. And Zeke and Sassy were in the back with us at that time. And, he was just tagging us for a while. He was just flying right next to us. And then he zoomed off, no sound the entire time, no sound. And there was this butte mountain, just sticking out. He just looked like he went straight into it. I didn't see him swerve up. I didn't see him swerve left or right. He just disappeared. Mm-hmm. It was really weird. I think that he was testing some sort of, what it reminded me of. I've seen multiple TR3Bs in my life. I've seen, starting with, I want to say it was probably in the late 90s. It was 98, 99 in Milford, Connecticut, at the beach, where we were having a sunset Friday night pizza at the beach type of thing. This is what we used to do with the kids. And, there was this triangle that moved overhead, and we watched it for 20 minutes, and it went over Milford Beach, Silver Sands, and it went down over West Haven. We watched it for like 20 minutes before it went out of sight. It had, basically lights along the perimeter of the triangle. The point was going forward. They were going on and off, and then a more reddish light, I believe. I'm trying to remember if it was reddish in the middle, or I forget now. It was 20-something years ago, about 24 years ago. But it was just fascinating because we stared at this thing slowly, the two kids and myself and my ex at that point in time, and it was amazing. But again, silent as can be, and this fighter jet was silent as can be. So I think they were utilizing the same sort of propulsion system on the fighter jets.
Yes, I mean, they definitely have things out there that we are truly, truly clueless of. So I had been in that desert for quite some time, and I have seen the fighter jets, and the ones that I have seen, I always heard them. They were very loud. So that's the biggest thing that stuck out to me is like, where's the noise? This should really be rattling our eardrums at this point. So I had never seen that before, and I have never seen it since, with the exception of the triangle, and that was really weird too.
As we had owned a small piece of desert right alongside Nellis, so this is where we were at night, and then we would go exploring, and we'd come right up to the, right along the perimeter of Nellis and see what we can see and go exploring all the mysteries, and we saw stuff every night. I mean, I don't think there was a night we didn't see what looked to be ships heading over there. But this giant, to get back to this giant, is something that was about 300 feet long. So this is a big creation, headed and created to basically say hi to somebody above. There are all sorts of these glyphs in the world. 5,000 in this one area alone. Why would people spend so much time trying to create these pictures to communicate with nothing? Because that's what they're doing, is they are trying to communicate. And this is a depiction of the giant, as you can see here. These are obviously communications. And they don't know exactly how old it is. 390 feet, guys. 390 feet. Now, this right here in this wiki is saying 1,000 to 1,400. I saw another one that said it might be from 800, another one that was pushing it back a few more 100 years. I think, again, they try to date these things more recent than they really are. And here again, we'll give you all the links as usual. That whole area, though, again, this is a magical area. This is my bucket list, is to get to Peru, Bolivia, northern Chile, do some exploring. Of course, we got the Nazca lines. Everybody should have heard of the Nazca lines by now, I would think. You could see there's a whole bunch of glyphs there. The astronaut there is, about 125 feet. So this one is 3 times that one. But again, why do they create something that's saying, hi, up there, hi guys, welcome home?
And look at all these spirals, and then again, look at the tree of life, and just look at the way they do these energies, and you can bet these are definitely mimicking something. And again, I don't think that the people on the ground did this all by themselves. I think they had quite a lot of help, and in many ways it also feels like a tag or a tattoo saying, okay, this is our area.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. So the biggest one is the heron over here, 285 meters long. 24 more were just discovered back in 2015. And they, again, this makes you just pause. Wait a minute. How could you find 24 more? I mean, aren't we all over the place? We got Google Earth. We could zoom in on anything. Oh, and by the way, there are some fascinating lines in this area over here. Now, you could see all this at some time was more than likely, absolutely, this was all above water. When we look out here, you could see there's one of the deepest trenches in the world is over in this area off the coast of Puerto Rico. But all this is all land when we have full glaciation. Again, you look to Florida, this is how big Florida is. Florida is like 4 or 5 times the width that it is when we have full glaciation. So then we could pretty much almost, basically hop, skip, and jump across from Miami to the Yucatan. And by the way, we've talked about the discoveries. There's pyramids over here off the coast of New Orleans and Mobile. There's pyramids over there. There's pyramidal structures under the water that at one time it was above water. When we shoot over to India and Dwarka, we've talked about that before, right here. This is where Krishna was born. There is a city over here, and it's just off the coast. And this is stuff we're just really found in recent times. And again, it's showing that these myths and legends, I trust the myths and legends way more than I trust anything coming from NASA, NOAA, or any other official government entity. So, why all this trying to communicate with somebody above? And, it's something that is global, but especially in the Americas, especially in the deserts of both North and South Americas. And check out these glyphs. These are in the Colorado Desert. America's Nazca lines. Series of gigantic geoglyphs found 15 miles north of Blythe, California in the Colorado Desert. In the southwestern United States alone, there's over 600 of these anthropomorphic geoglyphs. Now, the ones over by Blythe, it's the size, 6 figures in 3 different locations, all within 1,000 feet of each other, situated on 2 mesas. Humans, animals, objects, geometric shapes that, again, you could only see in the air. It's fascinating, is it not? I mean, these people were communicating with people up in the sky, going over their head. How could this be? Unless, these legends of these quote-unquote gods. Again, this is where we get the story. Let's throw that word away. Let's speak a little bit more definitively. There's extraterrestrials. There's interdimensionals. There is a creator of this universe, and there's a source of all creation. But if we break it down a little bit more, maybe it won't be as confusing. And yes, there are demons, and yes, there are angels. But not all demons and not all angels are, not all extraterrestrials, interdimensionals are all either demons or angels. This is where the distortion is. So you could see these. You can only see these from the sky. Of course, what does this say? Well, this says somebody was flying about in the sky. And this is what we have touched on, again, many times making reference. And there's depictions. These beings always look humanoid, so to speak, although many times it feels like they're wearing protective clothing.
Well, it's not that it's protective clothing. They're trying to portray light beings. So all of these rays around the head and all of these going through the body, those are light beings.
Thank you guys that have been with me since the beginning, since before I had this spectacular woman in my life, who's able to see things that I can't see, quite clearly. And here, when she says that, it just hits me like, yes, obviously, that's radiating. That's light radiating. Think about it. What do we see? We see a halo. And honestly, I didn't see it. That's why I've been partnered with the most amazing woman on this planet.
He's so too kind.
No, in my mind, she can do no wrong. And
he can do no wrong on my mind.
No, I've done plenty in my life. I've made so many mistakes, but again, mistakes cause us to grow, hopefully, as long as we learn from them. Yes. And I love doing these type of off-the-cuff videos with you guys, and thank you for your patience in allowing me to go off on tangents. So yeah, when you see this, let me bring this up.
A lot of things, it's just really a matter of perspective. And I always say, people talk about the veil, the veil. Really, honestly, there is no veil. I mean, this is all about change in perception, and that's how things should be looked at by all different perceptions, because we're all a unique spark of source. We're supposed to see things different, and they like to bring us to conformity in the schools, and that really kind of makes things very, very dull. So I want to reclaim our uniqueness back.
Yeah, here we're looking at Mary. You see those beams? So these are energy rays. I mean, I know this from Qigong and Reiki, and these are energy rays is what they're trying to depict. And so there again, thank you, wonderful lady, for allowing me to see something I didn't see before. And it was so freaking obvious. Again, see, energy rays. These are all depictions of the halo coming off, as we could see here again. This is what this is depicting. And so when you see this around the head, this person has a fully activated pineal gland, and they're able to perceive things that most people don't. So that is, what we're seeing with these beings. These are energy rays. Wonderful.
I mean, I think it's amazing. And, the having enlightenment, when it was so common at one point, people couldn't lie to each other. There was mind reading, there was bilocating, and people really had to be on a different field. So since you could mind read, you really need to be careful with your thoughts, because, thoughts are now things, because everybody can read them, see them, know them. And that's where we're headed back to. A lot of people can do the mind reading. A lot of people can read the energies, but that's where we have to raise up in vibration, because so many of us have been traumatized and hurt in so many ways. You might not want to know what's going on in somebody else's head through trauma. So we really need to work on that heart chakra.
Absolutely. And when you look at, and this is again, this particular wall, look at how they put it together. This is showing somebody that's having fun. This is playful. This is fun. We can do great things. We're creating in a way that we're not destroying anything. And we're showing you how all these vastly different puzzle pieces can work together. This is a beautiful example of taking a bunch of things that you might see no use for in some ways and making a unified whole out of it. Every single one of us is so unique, and that's the way it should be. Not one size fits all with anything in this universe. And that's the whole point. And this is amazing. Sure, I know that they probably did, laser cut something here or there. But when you see this again, this is ancient. It's amazing technology. And, so many things that look like today's technology, but they're actually thousands of years old. The distortion in what they've given us is just completely obvious. Our history is not what we've been told. And just like today, you could go see Amazonian tribes. You could see tribes down in Africa. We could see them in Southeast Asia that are living in isolation. And they're not flying around in airplanes. No, they're still catching fish with spears and living in total harmony with nature. And yet you have our technology, which it seems like it would be godlike technology, for lack of a better word, cohabitating with people that are living in a manner that most people lived in thousands of years ago. By choice, too, by choice. And many of us are going to walk away from these technologies in this age and by choice decide to live simpler. So when you look at these amazing walls, and again, this is all part of this same area that we're talking about. Some of these blocks weigh 200 tons. How do they get them into place? And there's massive blocks in Syria that really only the very top of the line cranes that we have today could move them. Only a couple, like 2 or 3 cranes in the entire world could move these blocks. So how is this done? Is it really just, thousands of slaves? Heave. I don't think so. I mean, they understood mathematics to such a high degree. But all the legends talk about humanity being taught by these ancient and shining beings. And we have tons of skulls. And again, the skulls come from the same area as well. Now, they're Turkey, Anatolia, we find these same in the Black Sea area that they're trying to blow up right now with another war, Ukraine-Russia war. We find a lot of these same skulls, and often they are found with red hair. And again, a lot of the ancient rulers of Egypt were either blonde or red-headed. And these skulls, there are some skulls that could be human abnormalities, but there's many that have been proven that they're not Homo sapiens. They're humanoid, but they're not us. But they're close enough that they probably could breed with us. As you see, this is what that person would probably look like according to, one particular model. And this, little one, by the way, and Cindy's got something.
Right. So, I mean, look at the eye sockets. Look how big those eyeballs are. These beings, and we're going to be there too, they have this ability to pull in and perceive all the other forms of light that we can't see yet. So what nature does is when it creates something, and if that creation is altered, nature is always prone to pulling it back to its original blueprint, because that's the perfect way of all things, just how they are originally created. So this is what I see as us going back to the eyes are going to be bigger. We'll be able to take in more light. Therefore, we'll be able to see our surroundings. And I don't think we're too far off from that. I know a lot of people with children who are extremely gifted, and they can already see, different light spectrums. And I think we're on our way back.
Absolutely. And, I'll share with you guys that, like, the other night I was doing mantras and meditation, and then it was like I was on the most wild either ayahuasca or psilocybin trip, but I wasn't. It was just triggered by the vibrations from the mantras and drawing energy in through the third eye directly into the pineal. And it hit me last night again, why haven't I shared this with you guys? Because we have to go, and we will go into more actual techniques for opening up and activating the chakras. The chakras are really, you could think of them as stargates. In many ways, they are stargates. They are interdimensional, multidimensional, just like we really are. And science has now found that our brain was, it should be able, of course, we've been modified in many ways, modified not in a good way, We should be able to actually work in 11 different densities, dimensions. There's so much more to us than we understand, but it's all being unraveled now. So many, many different humanoid beings. And, this was talking about DNA results, which they don't want to come out. But this one mummy here, they call Maya, curled up in kind of a fetal position. This is in Peru. I can't wait to get to Peru. Really, I am so looking forward to it. I hope we're able to make it at some point in time, and there's no more, rules and regulations. We have a free society again, and we could travel freely. This is another reason why we need to speak up. Speak up. We can't go down that route of digital everything and Big Brother saying yes or no. You can't buy that new washing machine. Your carbon credits are out. Sorry. Maybe just do it by hand. This is the world that they want. So Maria could be 1800 years old. Maria, I thought was Maya. There's another one that they named Maya. So the DNA is 98.5% similar to humans, 1.5% unknown species. Hello, 1.5% unknown species. This is not the first time this has happened. I mean, it's well known that there's missing links out there. And again, when you think about all these petroglyphs pointing up to the sky, just go to the Ramayana. And I ordered a beautiful illustrated copy of the Ramayana that we'll make some videos out of. I do have a copy of the Mahabharata that's illustrated and gorgeous. And so we'll share some of that with you guys in future videos. These were literally, in many cases, flying cities that people would see overhead. And that's how it reads in the Ramayana. When the heroes of the Ramayana are going to rescue Sita, Rama is going to rescue Sita. This is why our pups are Rama and Sita, by the way. They hear a sound, they look into the sky, and they see what we would call an Asura, the bad guy, or you could call him the demon king, Ravenna. And he's flying by on his way to Sri Lanka. That's his home. He's just flying by. And so, they look up and they see him go, and they know, yes, he is taking Sita, to his castle, his fortress. And it's an island kingdom. And so they end up building Rama's bridge or Hanuman's bridge, because really it was Hanuman who, in many cases, might be what we think of as a Bigfoot type creature. Hanuman's very, very real, by the way, and Hanuman is still on the planet, just to let you guys know, and is a very ancient being. But they actually make a bridge, and it goes out to Lanka, and we've talked about this today too, and satellite photos show that it's there. They show that it's really there. So again, there's all these myths. When you see these temples, they are again representations in many cases of these ships that went flying by. Some were very, very benevolent beings, some were very, very malevolent beings. And here you see a giant depiction of a benevolent being here in this temple that is really a representative of a Vimana, a ship.
Mm-hmm. So much more than we've ever been introduced to. And one of the best tricks you can learn to have these truths revealed to you on a daily basis is keep in mind that just because they announce something and they show it to be in a funny or cartoon way, and I have noticed in cartoons there's a lot of truth. And this is how they must tell you the truth to keep out of those karmic loops and continue to do what they do. So they might make something that might sound silly, look silly, seem impossible, haha, funny, but it's your choice if you want to believe them. And that's where that comes into play. It's our choice if we want to know and find the truth. So if you look at things through that lens, you'll learn a lot more.
Yeah, one of the things, and since this is going on EEARTS, we could speak a little bit more plainly to you guys. We know that we have the whole family, Evolutionary and EEARTS. Evolutionary at one point in time wasn't restricted like it is now, and EEARTS has always been restricted. So they don't let the EEARTS videos get out into the masses because, again, we're uncovering too much of the real history, and they don't want that. But one of the things that hit me with the guides was, here we were communicating, and Cindy's channeling Yeshua, right? Yeshua, Jesus, Yeshua. And then we're communicating to Lakshmi, who is, the Hindu goddess of abundance. Aset, who is known as Isis, is a being that we've been with for millennia, in many lifetimes. There's a long connection with Aset and ourselves. And yet we're talking to the Galactic Federation, and not the Galactic Federation of Worlds, not the Galactic Federation of Light. There's a lot of other, there's a lot of distortion going on right now, trying to get you, again, to throw the baby out with the bathwater. And there's a lot of agents that are infiltrating, and if it gets 500,000 views, it's going to be part of the program. Let's just put it that way. They're not going to allow the truth to get out there to the masses, and they'll keep the channels that are given the real truth down to very, very small views for the most part. And it might hit you like, well, you're talking here to Jesus, Yeshua. You're talking here to a goddess, from the Hindu pantheon, and you're talking to extraterrestrials. Well, they're all extraterrestrial, interdimensional beings, all of them. Again, ultimately, we are all sparks, lights off source. We're all part of source. Every single one of us is part of source. We're all an individual ray off the sun, so to speak. We're all a little spark off the fire of source. All unique, and yet we are just having this experience as a human. We've had, in many cases, experiences as other humanoid beings, and we've also had experiences as non-humanoid beings in many cases.
It's just sometimes people, when you're just starting to wake up, a lot of this information, you have to ease into it. But once that light is turned on, it's turned on. There is no going back. And when the light body is activated, you can see past everything. And this is how we are able to see things, entities, beings that other people otherwise wouldn't know that were there. But when we do channel as a collective, many times these beings like to come through as a collective because part of their light is able to reach one of you. And as they come through as a collective, there's healing energies that can be channeled through and reaching people. Many people have said when we're doing the channelings that they are able to feel certain things, and what they're feeling is the body being reorganized, or the energy being reorganized outside the body, bringing some kind of healing. So it's just amazing that these beings can channel through the way they do. They do not fuss with each other. They do not fight with each other. They do not have this way is the only way, this is the best way. No, they have ties to all of you in some way, shape, or form. And whatever tie, whatever energetic tie is going to bring you healing through that entity, they like to bring it through in that sense. So it's just a really beautiful thing, and it's something that we can receive on this earth, and it's also, unfortunately, something that's really hidden. So when I was younger, I had a lot of problems with a lot of doctors thought that they were doing me a favor by trying to give me pills to make the energy stop, because I was doing things and saying things that I could not explain, that I had no say over. It was, how do we control this person? So they tried to go through medication, because I was very, very confused myself. And, if it weren't for me running across the best man on the planet and finding some acceptance and understanding, and that way I can then take the energies that scared most people and I can turn them into something that is going to benefit many people and help you guys get to your roots. Like, who are you? What is your galactic history? How many lifetimes have you been here? What kind of a being are you? Can you pick up any past life entities? Do I have any lessons to learn in this life? And this is information that can come through me, and I've been able to develop it to a higher and higher degree. Eventually, we'll all be able to do this, but we need to work on our own healing and our own restoration, so that when these abilities do come through, they're not going to be traumatized and they're not going to be looked upon as anything strange. Because honestly, you really have to be in a space where you have a support network when we're dealing with a lot of these energies.
So hopefully you guys found this interesting and illuminating. So again, yes, there are many different beings that are not from Earth that have visited Earth of many different densities. And they're not all alike. We cannot put them all into one category, just like we cannot put every single thing that swims into one tiny little box. We can't put everything that flies into one little box. We can't put every mammal into one little box. And certainly not every human is identical. It's the same thing with these beings that we take as gods and goddesses, and demons and devils and asuras and devas, and all these different beings that truly are real beings and have been here, and many of them are still here in some ways, and many will be returning. Mm-hmm. As always, guys, we appreciate your support over on Patreon, where we have the different tiers, and also over on Ko-Fi, where you could do a one-time donation to support the channel, or monthly, and it's done in $5 increments. As always, God bless, much love, namaste.
Namaste.